Guys, how are you?
Doing good.
All right, so introduce yourselves and your band for your listeners.
Okay, we'll wear some jazz outfit. And I'm Angela Cross.
I'm Brenton Cossack. I play some bass in the group.
Nathan right here, I play the drums. I'm Derek and I play keyboards.
All right. How long have you, individually, how long have you guys been musicians?
All of life.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how old I am now. Yeah, I guess that's like 24 years, 25 years, something like that now.
Give or take.
Yeah.
I guess for me it's only been like 17.
Yeah, I feel like a baby. I didn't even
Yeah.
know what a bass was until I was like 15.
I don't remember not reading music anymore.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's just part of the connections between the sounds in your hands. At this point, it's
Yeah. So yeah,
becoming more natural.
And so your music's, jazz. What brought you to jazz? Or is it something other than jazz? Like, more than jazz?
Well, the thing about jazz, I think, is that the jazz is almost a synonym for improvisation. It's at least that's what it's become. It definitely didn't start that way, but at this point, jazz is such a broad term. But we're definitely going for that idea of improvisation. Of tonight, you're going to see a show you're never going to see any other night. Next time you see us, it's going to be a completely different show, even if we do the same tunes.
Yeah.
Just because we're going to go where the music calls us to go. And we're going to be listening and we're going to be having a good time.
It's the human interaction. Sitting at a piano by yourself for hours and hours and hours is not nearly as much fun as getting to hang out with other people and do it. And it also makes you do other things that you would never do on your own. To have those other sounds, those other things, other people's ideas. Just like in a conversation, you're never gonna... You can sit there and write a paper by yourself all day long, but if you have a debate with somebody else, it's going to bring out all sorts of different ideas. And that's really a lot of the fun of it. I started as a classical pianist, and I still love playing Beethoven and Bach. I do it every day, but playing jazz is so much more free because you get to really interact with other people in these kind of different ways.
And there's a jazz vocabulary. And it's a culture that you learn to exist in, and you can quote people, and people will catch quotes, and it becomes this really fun sort of historic game of tunes and phrases and changes, and it's more than just a style where you go da 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 da. It's a whole 100-year history of musicians who were taking these grand classical forms and shrinking them down to little 3-minute tunes, and that's distinctly American too. And nobody plays you can hear American jazz musicians they sound different than any other country of jazz musicians.
And part of the whole culture of that, with all of these, there's a lot of tradition of tunes that are standards that we learn, but part of that is that breaking the rules is part of the tradition. The people who are really looked at as the heroes of jazz are really the people who decided that they didn't want to do what other people were doing. When things were really huge and loud, somebody else decided it was time to get really soft and quiet. Or, that's just an easy example, but it's about breaking rules and finding new songs, and even the concept of to jazz something up. Even just with the Christmas songs we played tonight. They were in different styles, whether we were playing kind of like a New Orleans backbeat kind of a feel, or a swing, or a Latin. You can do all those different things with the tunes, because that's what jazz is about, is taking the music of every different kind of thing out there and bringing it into what you want to do with it. So whether it's a Radiohead song or a piece by Prokofiev or Beethoven, you have the options to take those things and play with them as you want to.
Well
said.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's why we chose jazz.
But exposure is so much of it. I bet everybody here had parents who played music for them, and they probably played some jazz or at least blues for them.
Yeah, I don't think any one of us only play jazz either. I still do classical stuff. I'm a classical musician, really, at heart.
Yeah,
Bach every day.
I got my degree in classical composition, so
Yeah.
there wasn't any jazz involved there.
What was there though? You know what I mean?
I did have teachers accuse me of writing jazz all the time, but I think that's a lot of it. Is that the music is not trying to fit into one genre. It's like going to Thai food one night and then going to Chinese food another night. It's all food, and there's delicious things everywhere you go. There's horrible crap everywhere too.
Yeah. And jazz keeps you as a good musician. Like if all I'm playing is really simple pop tunes, I don't keep my chops up.
That's the kind of crap he was talking about.
Yeah, but then again, you look in pop, there is that certain goal at some moments. You look at the things that John Lennon did and you go, wow, okay, I can still play those songs and enjoy it. But there's definitely some other stuff you can live without. So yeah, I think that's a lot of it. It's just as a musician, or at least me, I don't know where everybody else is, but like I say, it's like any sort of art. There's cream in every genre, and there's just dreadful crap in every genre, and a lot of in between. But yeah, and so really in the end, it's hard to, that jazz is what we chose to do tonight, I suppose. But
Yeah.
it's in the end, it's just I'm a fiend for all music. So wherever there's that golden layer on top, that's where I want to be.
Right on. Did you guys ever think in your music, life that you wanted to quit? Like, was there a time that you were like, you know what, I'm done, but then you got that push to continue? What happened?
Believe it or not, yeah, that is my game, isn't it? Angela and me met back in college, and we were both pretty heavy, hardcore musicians, and we used to get together and we used to improvise a lot, and we never really called it jazz. But anyway, while we were going to school, we had different things happen to us. I just had a good old-fashioned burnout. I got tired of people telling me what to do, I guess. I don't know, all kinds of childish stuff. Wasn't willing to compromise, I think. But I came back to music because it was calling me every time I heard it. Every time I heard it, I just wanted to play along. I wanted to make something with it. And then Angela, I found out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but she had kind of gone through something similar. Where she had had a big break away from music and kind of a recalling to it from a totally different angle she didn't expect to before.
Not from music, mainly from the saxophone. And
the saxophone itself.
Had a horrible divorce.
Saxophone,
process.
okay, close enough.
Really messy.
That's kind of, I think, something that happens with a lot of training and intensity of school, though, because
Sure.
I did the same thing with writing classical compositions. That's all I did for years, and then I mostly play jazz now. I still work in church and play church music, but it's mostly about jazz these days.
Yeah.
That probably is some sort of a reaction to having been doing all these other things and then burning out, and then saying, well, for me, I didn't want to necessarily quit music or anything, but I do completely different things than I was doing 10 years ago. So
I mean, honestly, what makes me ever want to quit is feeling like I can't do it. And if I don't feel like there's something I can't do when I'm practicing, then what am I practicing? So I feel like feeling like you may want to quit, but it may be too hard is part of challenging yourself as a musician.
yeah, you don't choose music because you're gonna make $1 million.
That's for sure.
And
It's really a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, and it doesn't matter. It's like when you get married, you're not gonna like your spouse every day, but you don't quit. I mean, some people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's definitely wake up and practice, and last thing I do before I go to bed is close the lid on the piano. So lifestyle is definitely the way to describe it. It consumes everything you do.
You couldn't quit if you tried because you wouldn't be able to get any sleep.
Yeah. That would definitely be the case. And just the balance your psyche, I suppose. There's a lot of times where I look at somebody who's a musician who hasn't got a chance to play in a long time, and you can see how pent up they are that it is a release in many ways, and jazz is great for that because you're free to interact as you want to. And so it definitely, I think, keeps a lot of balance, or for me in my life. I look at friends of mine who don't get to play anymore, and I feel bad for them because they don't get to have that release anymore.
Right on. Who would you say your inspirations are?
Oh boy. I'm a huge fan of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. For anyone that doesn't know, they're a jazz band comprised of a banjo player, electric bass player, electronic drum player, and he made this like drum tar thing. And they've had a couple different types of horns in the past, but they do jazz, but they just are always trying out new things. And every time you see them, it's a new show. You never know what to expect. I just love that, but they work so hard at being able to just make music with what happens around them. Gotta come up with an idea right there on stage, and they'll just write a song right there. Awesome. They look like
Yeah, similar like Bobby McFerrin. Same similar reasons. I mean, that man never put himself in a box, like ever. He's a singer. He's almost a psychologist. You watch him in some of his performances and what he does with his people, with his audience, right? Like it's incredible what he does. And he's also like one of the most fantastic classical conductors that walks the planet right now.
But continually breaking rules, he conducts barefoot. There's people who won't go see him perform because he'll go up there and tux and tails but barefoot, or sometimes just in whatever's comfortable. And a lot of people have issues with that, but I always tell my students that when they're playing on recital that the most important thing is to be comfortable. I don't care if you really look that good as long as you play right.
Yeah, maybe think of Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo, and also composer of many film scores. I think he's a great musician. Another person that really lives and breathes music. In terms of jazz, a couple that I thought of were Thelonious Monk and John Scofield, a couple of my favorites. And I play drums. I like both drummers that those people bring along. Thelonious Monk was a pianist, and John Scofield was a guitarist, and they always find great drummers in there. I would respect that a lot.
Right on. Where can those that love your music, where can they find you guys? Or like hear you guys?
They'll be finding us in the club. We've got a website in the making right now.
Yes,
It'll be someJazzoutfit.com coming real soon.
All right, thank you guys.